Hello everyone, back in New York City, here on this sunny and chilly late winter day. And at the time that I happen to be back here for a little bit and making this video, there is the very awful war in Ukraine that is going on. At the time I'm making this video, the assault is still going on, and I mean, like, I need to get real with you guys a little bit here with this video. I can't hide the fact that I am completely disgusted by what Putin is doing to Ukraine. I mean, look, I'm neither Ukrainian nor Russian, but I am against any kind of war where you see so much destruction, especially that targets civilians. And so I figured while I'm here in New York for a brief while and making another video while I'm here, I would check out the Little Ukraine neighborhood here in Manhattan. I've actually never checked this neighborhood out before. Even when I lived here, I never came down here. So I figured maybe as a little tiny way to support the Ukrainians that are having this unjust war and invasion by Putin, maybe be my small way to contribute to any kind of support that can be contributed to the Ukrainian people. And, you know, besides feeling a lot of sympathy for the Ukrainians for what they're going through, I do also feel for the Russians who are against this, especially the ones in Russia who cannot protest openly about this. But on a positive note, I am meeting with my friend Charlie, who you might recognize from a previous video that I had done here in New York City, where we met up at an Afghan restaurant over on the west side.
That's right.
So how are you, Charlie?
I'm fully recovered from that meal and I'm fine. How are you, Nick?
I figured since I'd never come to Little Ukraine anyway, that you know, we would meet up here and go have lunch and check out the Little Ukraine neighborhood. And many times that we've met up for meals before, we've tended to go to a lot of places from the former Soviet Union anyway. So,
right.
And we've even eaten Ukrainian food together too before I started making videos.
We have indeed, yes.
So,
and a lot of Central Asian republics of the Soviet Union.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, you know, figured why not come and do that now and try to support the Ukrainian people, at least in our own very, very, very tiny way.
Absolutely, I agree. And the place we're going to today is run by volunteers for a nearby Ukrainian church, and this is their major fundraising effort, is to run this little, it's sort of a Soviet-style canteen, where there might only be you know, a handful of dishes every day, traditional Ukrainian foods, and all served to you by these. They tend to be babushkas, older women, grandmothers.
It's called Streetcha. I'm guessing that's how you would pronounce that in Ukrainian. And so it's in the basement of this place here in on 7th Street. All right, so I have some borscht and cabbage and sausage. And then what did you get?
I have vareniki, which are boiled potato dumplings with sour cream and fried onions, and they're very similar to Polish pierogi.
Yes, very good. Well, it sure smells and looks delicious. So let's dig in.
Doing it during this.
You can just see that house.
One of the main signs is that has there been more business lately?
Yes, like twice more.
Twice more. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we barely can handle the amount of people coming now.
Oh wow.
You know, we are grateful they come in, but
of course
this is like small church.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much capacity.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's only, you see, 3 of us plus.
Yeah.
There isn't too much here. The neighborhood now is essentially like a lot of the ethnic neighborhoods in Manhattan. They don't really exist anymore.
Sure. Southern Brooklyn also. I mean, there's Brighton Beach.
Right.
There's a Ukrainian community there too.
In South Brooklyn, there is a very large Ukrainian community. In the 1970s, the United States did everything in its power to get the Soviets to release Soviet Jews and others who were being persecuted, and the efforts really didn't get anywhere until there was a famine, a drought in Ukraine. And Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe, and they had no wheat. And I think it was Brezhnev at the time. He must have thought to himself, what happens if I wake up some morning and Soviet citizens find no bread in the bake shops? What happens next? So there was an agreement to allow dissidents to go, and then eventually that opened the floodgates for other Soviet citizens to leave the Soviet Union and come to the U.S. And many of them did settle in Brighton Beach, and there's a thriving community now. And while there may have been a lot of Ukrainians and Russians who first settled the neighborhood, in subsequent years there have been Georgians and now a lot of people from the Central Asian republics like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan who live there as well. And it's really an interesting neighborhood now because it's not just the Slavic culture that's there, but the culture from the other parts of the Soviet Union.
From the wider region too, wow.
And there is one of my favorite grocery stores in New York. I call it the Brighton Beach Zabars. It's a place called the Tashkent Market. Okay. And it's right there on Brighton Beach Avenue. And it has these wonderful foods, not only of Central Asia, but of the rest of the former Soviet Union as well. And they've got this magnificent hot bar where you can buy all these extraordinary foods, and it's dirt cheap. It's just great. Well, and it's right off the Brighton Beach subway stop.
Well, I think that in a future video we should go and check that out.
Oh yeah, that's a warm weather trip, but yes.
Yes, if next time I'm in New York during the warmer months, I think that we should definitely go check that out.
You asked me what the dimensions were of Little Ukraine today. I would say 6th to 7th streets and 2nd to 3rd avenues.
Okay, so that's a pretty small. It's a pretty small area, so easily walkable.
When I was a young kid, my grandparents, my mother's parents, lived on East 7th Street between Avenue A and Avenue B, which is just a few blocks down that way. And it was a heavily Ukrainian neighborhood, and there was this extraordinary Ukrainian working man's bar on the corner. Oh, wow. And I was never allowed to go in it. Of course, I was probably 7 years old, and I don't think they would take my proof. Yeah. But,
it'd be hard to pass as 21, or I guess back in those days it'd be 18 if you're 7.
And Ukrainians traditionally, the early Ukrainian immigrants were to a large extent in this neighborhood working class people, blue collar workers who worked awfully hard and during their off hours would go to a place like that and have a few beverages, usually beer. Not too far from here, there was a little social club which was known to be as a hangout for Ukrainians who subscribed to the Bolshevik philosophy. And it's now a KGB bar. It's a Soviet theme restaurant.
Interesting.
And you can go in there and you can wear Soviet Army hats if you want while you enjoy your beverage, while you enjoy your $20 cocktail.
I wonder if now, in light of the recent events over the last week, since in the week leading up to the day we're filming this, where a lot has happened, it'd be interesting to see if that's still the case.
They announced a few days ago that they were no longer serving Russian vodka and Russian beer.
Right.
Took it off the menu, and we're seeing a lot of that where. Especially Russian places who do not support what's happening in Ukraine, and that's the overwhelming majority, certainly of Russian institutions in the United States.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, I think in general, the sense I'm getting as someone who also knows many Russian people outside of Russia, most of them are against this as well, and so it's a very, it's an awkward position for them to be in.
Down this street, 2 blocks, a bar called the Blue and Gold Bar, the colors of the Ukrainian flag. Sure. It's been in Ukrainian hands for 3 generations. And when the Soviets annexed Crimea in 2014 and the struggle began in the Donbass region between pro-Russian separatists and Ukrainians, and if I said earlier Soviets, I meant Russians, they stopped selling Russian vodka. They were the first to do it, as far as I know. Sure. And they stopped selling Pabst Blue Ribbon beer.
Oh, why that one?
As an American working class beer as you can get.
Yeah.
Because there had been a report that the company had been purchased by a Russian company.
Oh, interesting.
I think it was called Oasis Beverages.
Interesting.
And after a few weeks of confusion, it turned out that the beer had actually been purchased by a Soviet Jew who was an American citizen. And I don't know if they ever went back to selling Pabst Blue Ribbon. But that was a big deal in the papers in 2014.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because back then, of course, because things were nowhere near as escalated as they are today. You didn't hear so much about boycotting Russian products and stuff like that like you do now, because
Right.
it was a bit of a smaller situation than the present day one. But that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But thank you for all of that, Charlie. It's always great to see you, and of course, every time that I am back in New York, we always have to meet up at least once for a meal, and hopefully we will be able to continue doing that for a very long time.
I hope so. That would be great.
All right.